Hey, hello. I'm Tunesy. If you couldn't tell by the channel name, of course. Episode 5 of Craziest Crimes in Every State. Wowzers! Oh my goodness. We're a quarter? Is it a quarter through the series. Haha. Damn. Time's going by too quick. I think it needs to slow down a bit for real. Um, Today I'm doing everyone's favorite state. Oh my gosh. This is where all all the palm trees are at. This is where wait, are palm trees in I'm not quite sure. But this is where everyone loves, everyone wants to go. California. California Love by Tupac. Yeah, everyone's favorite state apparently. At least from what I've heard. Everyone I've ever met always wanted to go to California. I actually want to go to California someday. I want to go to Hollywood. L A. I want to go to L.A. Is that a gang sign? I don't know, but I hope it's not. But today we're doing California. Yay! Today's true crime is based around Chowchilla, California. The crime is about a kidnapping that happened in 1976. On July 15th, 1976, bus driver Frank Edward Ray was transporting 26 Dairyland Elementary School students home. The children had spent the day on a summer class trip to the Chowchilla Fairgrounds swimming pool. At approximately 4 p.m., a van drove into the bus's path and blocked the road. Ray stopped, and three men with nylon stockings covering their face exited the van and hijacked the bus. One of the men pointed at Ray, a second drove the bus, and the third followed in the van. The kidnappers drove to Berenda slow. They retrieved a second van that they had hidden nearby. Both vans had been modified by the kidnappers to transport their victims. Their rear window had been painted black, and the interiors were insulated with soundproof paneling. The kidnappers ordered Ray and the children to the vans, then drove them to the California Rock and Gravel Quarry in Livermore. On July 16th, the victims were forced at gunpoint to climb down a ladder, through a hatch, and into an underground bunker. The kidnappers had buried a truck trailer and converted it into a bunker equipped with ventilation and a pit toilet, and stocked with several mattresses and a small amount of food and water. As the victims climbed from the van into the bunker, the kidnappers wrote the name and age of each child on a Jack-in-the-Box hamburger wrapper. Once the victims were inside, the kidnappers removed the ladder, covered the hatch with a heavy piece of sheet metal, weighted it with 200-pound industrial batteries, and buried the opening. After several hours, Ray and the older children stacked the mattress to reach the hatch. As Ray lifted the hatch, a 12-year-old student, Michael Marshall, wedged a piece of wood into the opening, moved the sheet metal and batteries, and dug away the remainder of the debris covering the entrance. 16 hours after being imprisoned, Ray and the children climbed out of the bunker and walked to the quarry's guard shack. Alameda County sheriffs took the victims to Santa Rita Jail, the nearest facility with medical staff. Jail doctors and EMTs examined and treated them and gave them food and water, while the sheriffs took down statements and descriptions of the kidnappers. The victims were then driven back to their families in Chowchilla. On July 16th, telephone lines to the Chowchilla Police Department were jammed with calls from media and frantic families. The kidnappers, therefore, were unable to issue their $5 million ransom demand. They decided to call back later and fell asleep. When they awoke later in the evening, they saw television news reports that the victims had freed themselves and were. Meanwhile, local law enforcement and the FBI had immediately begun investigating Frederick and Newhall Woods IV. It was discovered that Woods had keys to the quarry, unlimited access, and free use of its facilities, since his father was an owner. Additionally, Woods and two friends, James and Richard Scunfold, had been previously convicted of motor vehicle theft, for which they were sentenced to probation. In Woods' room, investigators found journals, a draft of the ransom demand, maps, notes, plans, receipts for the vans and the trailer, false identification, one of the guns used in the kidnapping, and the hamburger wrapper on which were written the names and ages of each kidnapped child. The notes outlined plans to have the ransom money dropped from a plane into the Santa Cruz Mountains at night and retrieve it under the cover of darkness. Also discovered was a rental contract for a storage facility. There, the vans used to transport the victims were found, as well as a Cadillac sprayed painted with flat black night camouflage, a getaway car. Warrants for the arrest of Woods and the Schoenfold brothers were issued. 8 days after the kidnapping, Richard Schoenfold voluntarily surrendered to authorities. 2 weeks later, James Schoenfold was arrested in Menlo Park. Later the same day, Woods was arrested by the RCMP in Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. James, James Schoenfold later stated that despite coming from wealthy families, both he and Woods were deeply in debt. We needed multiple victims to get multiple millions, and we picked children because children are precious. The state would be willing to pay ransom for them, and they don't fight back. They're vulnerable. They will mind. Ray, the bus driver, received a California School Employees Association citation for outstanding community service. Before he died, on May 17th, 2012, he was visited by many of school children he had helped save. In 2015, Chowchilla renamed the Sports and Leisure Park as the Edward Ray Park and declared every February 26th, Ray's birthday, as Edward Ray Day. All three pleaded guilty to kidnapping for ransom and robbery, but refused to enter a guilty plea to infliction of bodily harm. As a conviction on that count in conjunction with the kidnapping charge carried a mandatory sentence of life in prison without the possibility of parole. They were tried on the bodily harm charge, found guilty, and given the mandatory sentence, but their convictions were overturned by an appellate court, which found that physical injury sustained by the children did not meet the standards for bodily harm under the law. They were resentenced to life with the possibility of parole. Richard Schoenfold was released in 2012, and James Schoenfold was paroled on August 7th, 2015. In 2016, a workers' compensation lawsuit filed against Woods revealed that he had been running several businesses from behind bars without notifying prison authorities. The heir to two wealthy California families, the Newhalls and the Woods, he inherited a trust fund from his parents that was described in one court filing as being worth $100 million, although Woods' lawyer disputed that amount. During the same year, the 25 surviving victims settled a lawsuit they had filed against their kidnappers. The money they received was paid out of Frederick Woods' trust fund, and although the exact amount of the settlement was not disclosed, one survivor stated that they had each received enough to pay for some serious therapy, but not enough for a house. In October 2019, Woods was denied parole for the 19th time. Over the years, reasons given for the denials included his continued minimization of the crime, as well as disciplinary infractions for possession of contraband pornography and cell phones. Woods married 3 times while in prison and purchased a mansion about half an hour away. In March 2022, a panel of 2 commissioners recommended Woods for parole. The recommendation required their approval of the full parole board, the board's legal division, and California's governor. Governor Gavin Newsom asked the board to reconsider, but the decision was affirmed. On August 17th, 2022, it was reported that Woods' parole had been granted and he was to be released from prison. That's the end of this video. This one was also kind of short. I didn't expect this one to be short, but I guess it was. California. We got California. Everyone's favorite state, like I said. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. I know there's probably a lot of people from California watching this, although I don't got a lot of views. But it's okay. I bet I got a lot of California subscribers, right? Because I think California is one of the populated states in the USA. I'm not sure. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Already day 5, tomorrow day 6. Can't believe it, guys. Hope you guys enjoy this series so far, and you guys are able to continue the journey of enjoying this series, and hopefully I get don't get overwhelmed with this series. I won't. It gives me something to do. So, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.